Where Did the Road Go is brought to you in part by our Patreons, and this month it's being brought to you in particular by Allison Cook, Eric Hervin, Lizzie Marie Trebet, and Super Inframan. Thank you all so very much, and now our show.
Transmission start. Welcome to Where Did the Road Go? Join us as we wander off the path and explore lost history, consciousness, the paranormal, unexplained mysteries, alternative thought, and much more. We are present on the web at wheredidtheroadgo.com. Now here is your host, Seriah.
And welcome to this edition of Where Did the Road Go? This is a live edition of Where Did the Road Go? And hopefully one of two in the next month. And with me, I have 2/3 of the band Cactus Cathedral.
Good evening.
Hello.
And introduce yourselves.
I'm Derek, the bassist and the lead vocalist.
And I'm Ben, I'm the drummer.
Okay, and you in particular have had quite a few weird paranormal type experiences.
Yeah, so a lot of our lyrics for the band are based on paranormal things. So I tried to, as the song, as the lyricist for most of the songs, I try and take a little bit of my own personal experiences and throw them into the mix with all of our different songs.
Before we get to that, since this is live on WVBR, if you have any comments or questions, go to wheredidtheroadgo.com. You can shoot us a message on the app there. Yeah, that's probably the best place to do it, is right there, because that'll pop right up on my phone while we're talking. So
that's cool.
So you, I noticed that when I was going through your stuff, I've played some of your songs at the end of the show before because they're rather appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them, our last EP was mainly kind of had the vibe of ghosts and hauntings. It was called Hauntings and Hardships, so that had more of a ghost vibe. Before we have a song, The Encounter. It's about aliens and abductions, everything like that. We haven't yet done a Bigfoot song yet, but that's next in line.
And that's one of your big interests.
Yes, Bigfoot is my definite thing. I got tattoos. For years, I've been just a Bigfoot fanatic.
And what about you?
More of an alien guy.
Okay, all right. And you guys are how old?
I'm 26.
Okay.
And I'm 32.
All right. So have you been into this stuff your whole lives?
Oh, yeah.
My entire life.
So where did it start?
I was raised primarily on horror movies, dark genres my whole life, so it kind of just fell in line with that. But yet, I was raised in a skeptical family. They didn't really buy a lot of the stuff that, you would hear and read about. But I was a sucker for all of it.
What about you?
I guess I have a vivid memory from when I was a kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I remember I was in the backyard at my grandma's house in this pool, and just remember seeing something fly over that kind of had a triangular shape to it. And then just for some reason I remembered that, and then throughout the years I've seen, different reportings on TV and different things online about the triangular shaped spacecraft that people have seen. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that kind of sparked my interest, and then just thinking about the vast size of how big the universe could be, there's got to be some sort of possibility of life out there.
Oh, I think that's almost definite that there's life out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what's visiting us, but I'm sure there's life out there.
Oh
yeah,
100%.
I'm more of the opinion that it could be completely infinite out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And but we're also we could also be dealing with stuff from other dimensions or that exists right here alongside us that we don't have the senses to perceive.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So those are also factors, I think, in all of this.
Of course.
So what's your earliest experience?
So my earliest experiences started with spirits and hauntings. Since I was a kid, I lived in haunted houses. At least I believe that they were haunted houses. From a very young age, we stayed in a house farther away from where we then moved, and my parents would tell me weird stories about things going missing and just weird noises at night, but nobody ever really bought too much into it.
Like stuff missing from the house?
Stuff missing from the house. My father would say that there was things missing. Every once in a while he'd hear a footstep here and there. I think at one point I heard someone died in the house, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But we moved quickly out of that house and then into the house that I grew up in, and I mainly experienced a lot of things in that house, but I don't think they were necessarily attached to the house. I believe they were things attached to a lot of the antiques and things that my mother collected.
Okay.
My first one that I ever remembered was my grandfather, who just recently passed away, he was a bargain hunter. So when the Baldwinsville School District by Syracuse had a big liquidation sale, as the story goes, he went and he bought a old school desk, one of those old metal ones where the desk is actually attached to the chair and it has a big open lid. You pull it open, it's that dirty, grimy sort of rusted metal.
Really uncomfortable chairs.
Really uncomfortable. Like he's like, this is what a 70-year-old is going to want to hang out in, is this metal, sharp, cold chair. But, being 7 years old, I'm like, okay, this is cool, whatever. And I just cover it in Pokemon stickers and everything like that. Just completely deface the poor thing. And so I have this early memory of having it in the corner of my bedroom when I had a very large bedroom growing up. And all the way in the corner, I remember waking up one night, middle of the night, nothing was happening beforehand. I definitely was awake, though. And I look over at the chair in the corner, and it's pitch dark, but there's a little bit of light coming from inside or from outside. And I look over and there's a little girl sitting there in the chair, and she's wearing a pink bonnet, a pink dress. She's got long black hair, and she's just sitting in the desk just looking forward. And I just had this moment. I remember I wasn't scared, but I was starting to get nervous by it, and I kind of just stared at her. And I think at one point she started to turn her head and look at me. And that's when I remember I yelled out, started getting upset, and my parents came in, and I remember the second they opened the door and the light from the hallway comes on, she's gone. So that was my first sort of thing. And I remember I told my parents, and they were like, oh, well, whatever. But looking into where the desk came from, it may have been some sort of residual energy possibly attached to the desk.
Yeah, and that could also we may live in a world that's just information.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you're seeing that information because you're in the right state of mind, you're picking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so your mind is projecting that there. It's basically just talking, the information is just talking to you, but it comes across as scary to us.
Oh, 100%.
Because it shouldn't be there.
Yeah. The calming effect I noticed, though, was interesting. I wasn't immediately scared. I've been immediately scared by other instances, but with that one, I remember I wasn't immediately afraid to see her. As she started to look and interact with me is when I started to get a little bit nervous, and that's when she disappeared.
And how old were you?
I was probably 7 years old.
Okay.
Very young, but I definitely remember I wasn't asleep. It wasn't a dream state like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very much remember being awake.
Okay. And so how do you want to do you want to go through some more of yours? I know you have a few. You don't have anywhere near as many as he does.
Right, yeah. I was actually on the way down. He was saying, I hope I don't talk too much tonight. I'm like, no, just...
Oh, jeez.
I know you've got more info on this than I do.
Yeah.
Well, feel free. Where did this go?
So it just, from there, it continued with my fascination with the paranormal and everything like that. So as time went on by, I started to go to my school library, pick up books that at least were available to me at that time about the paranormal, ghosts, a little bit of UFO stuff, but mainly I was starting with just learning about spirits because that's what I was initially interacting with.
Right.
So as the years went on, more antiques would come into the house, family heirlooms, very just old items that have had just some sort of energy to them. But we put them all, I remember there's one central room, the main living room of the house. And there were very old, and still are, old portraits, old pictures of family members. Some are pictures of people, though, that we have no relation to, that we just pick up. My mother picked up these.
Because they look cool.
They look cool. I was like, oh, well, she's a pretty woman in this old picture.
Yeah.
Who knows who the woman was or where this thing is from, but it's a nice picture. And so they all went into the one main formal living room. And so for years I would have, my friends come over and we'd have sleepovers and stuff like that. And at the end of the night, we'd be trying to figure out, okay, well, where are we going to bunk out for the night? Someone would always be like, oh, well, I'll go sleep over in the formal living room on the couch in there because we had a big couch. And every time we'd wake up the next morning and we'd go, oh, how'd you sleep? Whoever slept in that room would go, I didn't sleep because I just heard people talking all night.
Interesting.
Far away, but close enough you could discern it's someone talking, but nothing ever audible. Just sort of mumbling.
Oh yeah, I've walked into that room before and almost ran out screaming.
Really?
It's a weird feeling when you walk in there.
There's an energy to the room.
Yeah, you can feel like all eyes looking on you from all those pictures.
Have you heard the talking?
I've never heard the talking, but as soon as I walk in there, I don't want to be in there anymore.
Yeah, you don't feel comfortable in the room, but then it's at times it is very nice warming feeling, but then there have been many nights where you get this sort of ominous vibe of, okay, there's something else is in here.
Has anyone experienced anything other than the voices and the feeling?
So we, at one point, we had a night where it was me and a couple buddies were having a sort of sleepover like we did, and we would kind of mess around and we'd pretend we'd be hearing things, but we were young at the time, probably 13, 14. But there was one night where we decided, we go, oh, well, you know what? We won't sleep downstairs. We'll go upstairs in my bedroom for the night, which was totally different. We never slept in my bedroom, but they bunked out on the floor and I hopped in bed. And for most of the night, we all kind of had this sort of anxious feeling. We didn't feel comfortable. We didn't feel like we were having a fun time. We felt very anxious. So throughout the night, we would kind of sporadically wake up and you go, oh, did you hear that? It sounded like, something banging downstairs. But I know both my parents are asleep. There's no one moving in the house right now. The dog's asleep. So throughout the night, we felt this strange energy, strange vibes. And the next morning, we all come downstairs. My mom makes us all breakfast. And she goes, oh, did you guys have a fun night spending the night downstairs? And we go, what are you talking about? Spend the night downstairs. And she doesn't remember this. I bring this up now. She goes, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember any of that. But she goes, what are you talking about? I came down and I walked past the living room where you guys would always spend the night. And I looked over by the fireplace and there was someone sitting there up along the fireplace with glasses on. And I thought it was one of my buddies. She goes, I thought it was one of your buddies at the time. And we go, no. We were all upstairs that whole night. There was not a single person down there. She goes, I saw someone sitting there with glasses on because she could see. She goes, I saw the reflection of the glasses on the light behind me. But there was nobody in that room. She just kind of was like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. Just kind of brushed it off. But that I thought would be enough that, be like some sort of acknowledgement would go on that there was something going on in the house. But
so did they ever acknowledge any of the stuff that happened?
Not really. It's just when something weird did ever happen, we just kind of were like, oh, okay. It was just very much moved past. Not much was done to it. We, throughout the years, started to do a couple seances. At least me and one buddy of mine. We would place a crucifix down and we would leave it downstairs for a while, and my parents would be gone for the night, and we'd say, okay, we're going to go out for a while. We're going to go get something to eat or something. When we come back, we want to know, turn this to the left if you are related to my family, or turn it to the right if you're not. And we left and we came back in and no one could come through the house, and the thing was pulled to the right, saying that they're not related to me whatsoever. So we thought that was some sort of affirmation that there's something going on. It was obviously askewed, like someone to move this thing.
Yeah.
So that was the definite sort of instance of that there's something at least in that house. But a lot of people would then tell me that I guess people always say that they're conduits, I guess. Things are attracted to them. Because I've been out other places where I've definitely, I don't know if maybe I've brought things back with me into the house, other things like that. There's a lot of haunted areas in Syracuse. Syracuse has a very haunted history.
Really?
We have very old cemeteries, Oakwood Cemetery.
Very cool place.
Very cool place. That was where the bourgeois of the 1800s were buried in Syracuse. And then there's another place called Rock Quarry, where there, in probably the 1800s, there was a terrible explosion at the quarry where a bunch of miners died. I think it was like
50 people.
50 people, large explosion, very, very bad. So kids would go, that's like a usual spot, one of those old teen makeout spots, we're going to go up there, we're going to scare the girls, thinking something's coming out of the, because there was a very large cavern, basically, and it was the tunnel that they would take the, whatever they were farming out of there, whatever they were mining, in and out of the tunnel. And so, you would go there, and you'd hear a knock or a twig break, and everyone would run back to the car. But I remember being up there at one point, walking into the cavernous area, and there's these chains that were hanging, the very old chains. They wouldn't be swinging until you step foot in it, and you just started to swing back and forth. And then one instance, I remember standing in there and feeling this cold presence wrap around me, and I walked back out, and I think, boy, that was kind of a strange feeling. Come back home, I ended up in some sort of weird depressive state for about 2 or 3 days afterwards. I felt no emotion, no sadness, happiness, nothing. It was like I was totally just sucked out of all my energy. So I thought that was very odd. So later on, a couple days later, I'm sitting alone at my house, and I get a call from one of my buddies. He goes, oh, we're down here at Rock Quarry. We got a couple girls with us, and you won't believe what just happened. I go, oh, well, we went up there, and, they're getting scared, and we're like, oh, well, come on into the old cavern. Turns out there was a ghost hunting society that was doing a investigation up there. And they go, oh, you guys want to come hang out with us? You want to try and contact some spirits? Because, they got their big spirit boxes and that sort of stuff, which I'm kind of on the fence with. Some of that stuff I think is, I think they're just toys that make noise, and you start to attach that, oh, it's the ghost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think ghost hunters may say differently.
I don't know. Those ghost hunter guys are the spirit bucks are Zach Baggins and the Ghost Adventures.
Well, that's part entertainment.
It is.
Well, that's the thing.
I have to say, I like Zach Baggins. I think he's cool. I think he's a cool guy.
I think they're hilarious.
They're very funny. He's very funny with his Ed Hardy shirts and his sunglasses, like trying to fight ghosts.
And I don't think they're intentionally funny. It's like sometimes they are, but sometimes Zach walking up a hill full of rattlesnakes or whatever it is, and he's like, I'm gonna get over my fear of snakes. So he picks it up by the tail, and the thing starts to swing out toward him, and he's like, why is it coming toward me? And I'm like, you're an idiot. You know?
No, it's they definitely do whatever the camera needs them to do to keep on those seasons coming.
Yeah. I haven't watched it in a while.
Oh no, me neither. But yeah, so he goes, oh, well, we're up there, and the Ghost Hunting Society has said we're going to do a seance, or we're going to try and contact the spirits of these dead miners. Mm-hmm. And so they're in there messing around with their beeps and their whistles and everything, and nothing's really going on. So one of my buddies at the time goes, oh, can I ask a question? And they go, yeah, sure. And he goes, all right, I had a friend, Derek, that was up here a couple of weeks back, and something really messed with him while he was up here. Was any of you that are here, was that you that messed with him? They said the second he said that, all the beeps start going off, the whistles, the dings, everything like that starts going crazy. They're going, this has never made this much energy before, this has never done this. What's possibly, who is this Derek guy? What happened to him? And they explain the whole situation to him. Meanwhile, at the same time, they call me and they're screaming on the phone, you won't believe it, it was going crazy, the machines. I start to hear this weird noise downstairs in my kitchen. That was enough that when I was starting to get people correlating their experiences, saying, I'm seeing things associated with you.
Right.
That are making themselves known to us now that are not associated whatsoever. We think there's something possibly with you that could be, maybe attractive to these ghosts or something like that. So that was definitely the turning point from where I really realized that I may have some sort of, ability to draw in spirits like that. And
I think old cemeteries in particular, one of the things about them is I'm guessing most of them were built on sacred spots. So they're building them on energy spots because those are the sacred spots.
Of course.
Like new cemeteries are built wherever the city has room.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've found that the only cemeteries I've ever been in that I've experienced weird stuff in are the really old ones.
Yeah.
And so if you have a sacred spot and then you add the emotional content that you get from funerals and stuff like that, it makes it even more of an active spot. You know? And because I can't imagine a ghost goes, let's go hang out at our grave.
Yeah. Yeah, no. That's not what they're going to be. But that cemetery had a lot of, too, because Syracuse University was growing at the time, there was a lot of grave robbing. And they would exhume the cadavers out of that cemetery to use them for, autopsy training and schooling like that. So that was definitely, I think, a large part of it because they would booby trap the coffins. They would place bombs around them.
Wow.
Because it got so bad with them trying to take the bodies. So I think that had something a lot to do with it, especially up there. There's a real vibe to that place.
Huh. I have never been there. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, it's really cool. There's lots of different buildings and mausoleums and everything on site, and a lot of old chapels that I think they're all abandoned now, but
they were being used at one point for their offices and everything like that, and they just leave them. So you got these old structures, these old stone buildings. So is it like
an abandoned cemetery?
It's like half of it's abandoned, but it is maintained.
They do walking tours through it, and any day you go in there, there's just people that are in for a jog or walking their dog or something like that. So there's usually quite a few people in there every day, and
they're still burying people in there too.
Yep,
that's something. I was walking past there last time I was there around Halloween, and there's like a fresh grave there. I'm like, wow, they're still burying people here. So that was interesting.
And what's the name of that one?
That's Oakwood Cemetery out in Syracuse.
All right,
pretty big.
It's big, very big.
Let's get to a couple of your experiences. I mean, you talked about the UFO you saw.
Yep. A lot of the experiences I have, and I think that, when it comes to paranormal, a lot of people can experience things in different ways. I don't really have a lot of visual experiences or even hearing anything, but I definitely have a lot of experiences, like I was saying, from the room in his parents' house where I can just walk into a room and immediately get the feeling that I don't want to be in there.
Right.
There's a room in the apartment I'm in now, and he actually used to live in the room. And I lived in there at one point too.
That explains everything if he lived in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And but I always had a hard time sleeping in there, and usually slept on the couch in the living room because for some reason I would just kind of feel my heart like really pounding in my chest at night, and
There was a tight feeling to that room.
Yeah, it was a pretty
Partially
small
because
room.
it was very small.
But for some reason, I just got a bad vibe every time I was in there, and just never felt comfortable. And
Yeah, there was something weird about that room.
yeah, it's basically just a storage room now. I just whatever I don't want visible, I just throw in there. But yeah, I have more experiences like that. And like I was mentioning before the show too, I have just a lot of weird experiences with my dreams where I don't lucid dream, but I do wake up from a lot of the dreams that I have and kind of remember being in the same place that dream took in previous dreams. And
So like it's a consistent dream over different dream periods.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even there was a previous house that my dad and stepmom had lived in, and that house comes up a lot in my dreams. And from the outside, it looks exactly like their house. And the inside, it's an alternate version, but it's always the same when I go in there. The rooms are just kind of
the same alternate version.
Yep.
Yeah. And
I mean, that kind of got me more thinking about like our dreams connected with other dimensions, or
could be, yeah.
Some other reality and
other probabilities.
Yeah. So I wish there was a way. I've been trying to do that thing I've heard online where you can kind of learn how to lucid dream to see if I can like lucid dream and maybe scope out the area a little more.
Look at your hands.
Yeah.
That's the key, because once you do one conscious thing in a dream, you then have control.
Yep.
So they have a new machine that they're trying to, I think they just finished making it. It's like a sort of a eye mask for sleeping, but it periodically shoots this light and it flashes the light, and so you'll be able to see the light in your dream. And once you recognize the light, that's when you realize, okay, I'm lucid dreaming. I can control this right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wanted to buy one. It's like $600 or something. Some Norwegian company, of course.
Just look at your hands.
Yeah, just look at your hands. It's free.
You just gotta keep thinking it when you're going to sleep. Look at my hands. Look at my hands. And sooner or later in the dream, you'll remember. Look at my hands. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you do it, you're like, oh, hey, I'm dreaming. Yeah. I actually don't like lucid dreams because I want to know what the dream is trying to tell me, and I feel like once I take control, I've lost that flow of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There have been times where I've died in dreams, and then I went, okay, I don't like that. Let's go back.
No.
And let's do that differently. And then I realized, okay, I'm clearly dreaming.
Yeah.
Or times where I've dreamed that like I'm getting into a car accident and go, I really hope this is a dream.
Yeah.
And then I'll wake up and be like,
yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. And I've had different dreams too, where I might have some sort of reoccurring theme in a dream, and then something actually happens similar to it in real life.
Okay, like prophetic dreams.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could be anything, from like right before I start a new job, as I'm, about to go into an interview process or something like that. I might start having dreams about switching over to a new job, and even, before any of it actually happens. And,
right.
See, I guess that's more where my weird experiences come from, I guess. Like, I've really paid attention to my dreams throughout the years just because...
Do you keep a dream journal?
I've never done that. It's just more a lot of things just stick out to me that I can remember. And I have thought about doing that, though. But it's when I wake up, though, I can never remember a lot of specific things. I just remember kind of like where I was and what things looked like. And
the thing is, I think our culture in general just underestimates dreams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Our materialist society wants to say dreams are nothing. They're just subconscious, things. Or what I call those dreams subconscious dumps.
Yep.
It's the ones where you dream you're at work or something like that. And there's nothing important in this dream. It's just your brain releasing stress, basically, and getting rid of junk.
Yeah.
But then there are the dreams that are not that. And the sort of scientific establishment's like, no, those are the same thing. It's no, they're not. No. I mean, I've had plenty of prophetic dreams myself to the point where I have no doubt about them. Like with so much specific detail and information where it's just like, okay, this is a thing. And I know plenty of other people who have had the same thing. I always like the idea of big dreams and little dreams. I think it's the Aborigines who had that idea. Mm-hmm. So the little dreams are sort of the subconscious dumps, and the big dreams are where you're connected to something else.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, all right, let's go back to your experiences.
So, as the years went on by, the ghosts...
Did you go down to the mine when they were doing that stuff?
No. I was at home. It was very late at night, but hearing about that was just enough for me.
Okay.
And I've actually never gone back there since.
I don't blame you.
I've thought about going back there, but basically anyone I would tell that to, and I go, well, I'm thinking of going back there. And they go, just don't ever go back.
Yeah.
Like, it seems to just be an area you shouldn't visit before, or ever, again. But we would visit. My parents would always take me on like the best vacations, so we would go to Salem. I've been to Salem numerous times.
Nice.
Sounds awesome.
For some reason, never felt much in Salem. A couple little spots. Definitely did feel some energy. We just actually stayed there this summer with me and my girlfriend, and we stayed at the Hawthorne Hotel, which is supposedly the most haunted hotel in all of Massachusetts, or at least in Salem. Couple presidents stayed there, famous people. It's very beautiful. But had never been updated since the 20s, so the energy's still in those walls, and didn't feel anything. And we really thought something would happen. And the last night we're there, the only weird thing that happened was I kept feeling this sort of presence in the corner of the room. It was very late at night, and I just kept like intently staring at the corner of this room. And I go, I can't see anything, but I feel you've got that eyes on you feeling. So I definitely felt possibly there could have been something there. But Salem was a little bit more touristy than it was actually vibrations and the energies left over. Gettysburg was definitely a town that I felt.
That is something I hear constantly.
Gettysburg, a lot. There's the Jenny Wade house. I remember being there when I was like 14. Jenny Wade was the first civilian who was killed in the Battle of Gettysburg. Stray bullet went through her door and killed her. She was pregnant, I believe, at the time. And I remember going in there, and the house is all set up like it was, and there's little stuff everywhere you read about life back then and how they dealt with the war happening right outside. And I remember I couldn't even be in that room for more than 2 minutes. The whole building, because then the story goes they put her body down in the basement. So they say the basement has energy up the wazoo.
Right.
Weird pictures of mist and everything like that. And being only 14 years old, I'm like, I gotta get out of this house. And my mom's like, what's wrong with you? I paid $10 for you to get in here and enjoy this. And I'm like, I gotta go outside. You get that anxious, that real bent up feeling that he's talking about. So that was happening at a younger age. Then as I started to get a little older, entering high school and things like that, the whole ghost aspect of my life kind of faded a little bit, but this extraterrestrial UFO encounter aspect kind of came into life. And I started seeing strange things. And I had multiple witnesses to these things, and that then kind of took a precipice in my life.
Right. When you were in Gettysburg, is that the only experience you had?
That was the only one in Gettysburg.
Okay. My friend Jeff Ritzman, he does, I forget exactly what kind of modeling it is. It's where you put a machine in different rooms. You can do a 3D virtual reality type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he did that in one of the houses. I'm trying to remember exactly what he was describing. He said in one of the rooms, there's a door that's closed, except the door wasn't closed. So it's showing up on the 3D model as a closed door, but it's not.
Oh.
And there was also, something ridiculous. Like he was about to leave the room and he heard a voice say, there's something under the bed. I forget what it was, like a pair of underwear or something like that. And he went, I'm leaving.
No, that's
And the woman who ran the place went, did you check? And he went, nope. And she went back and came back with whatever it was. And she's like, yep, it was there.
It was there.
I mean, even just walking around the battlefields down there, you just get such a weird feeling, and you can really picture it and everything. And just reading up on the history of it is just so intense. And
in case I got any of Jeff's story wrong, go listen to his last appearance on the show, because I think that's when he talks about it.
Oh, nice.
But I'm kind of doing it from memory, and my memory's not good. So did the ghost stuff stop?
The ghost stuff lingered here and there a little bit, but kind of did take a back seat. I didn't experience as much, feel as much as I once did. Other things kind of came into play with, my interest in the paranormal and other things like that. But I did, from time to time, would hear something strange and feel an odd presence, especially in my parents' house a lot. And then when I lived with him, there was something strange in that room also. I would love to learn the history of that house, because it's a very old house that he's in right now. And there's got to be something that went on there. So that started to fade a little bit as I got older and got, more worldly as time went on. And, I visited Italy and felt a little bit of energy there. Went to the Colosseum, definitely felt something there. That was probably the biggest spot. Visited the Vatican, didn't feel anything. Felt almost unwanted. I felt like it's not the ghosts that are freaking me out. It's something else. I don't know what it is. But that lingered a little bit. The ghosts have always lingered for a while. But
so how did the more UFO-oriented stuff start?
So that, as I got older, I entered high school and started to begin to, research a little bit on, UFOs, everything that goes on, was really especially interested in the Phoenix Lights because I wanted to read about the encounters where it wasn't just some guy. One guy saying, I saw this one thing. It means something when you've got multiple people, hundreds of people saying that they've seen something, and it's not a plane, it's not flares, swamp gas, it's not any of those things.
Didn't they try to sell it on flares for a while?
The government tried to say it was a flares thing. Well, we just shot off some flares, but those things lingered for hours and hours, moved on their own. Pilots that had come into the Arizona airport, they go, there's something up here. There's something flying. And they would be ringing it, back and forth into the comm towers. And they'd be like, we don't see anything on the radar. So, when you've got people, I think even like, Kirk Douglas, one of the famous actors, he goes, I was a commercial pilot at the time. And I flew in that night and I saw these large lights in the sky. So I got really obsessed with that. But partially because I started to, primarily in the neighborhood that I was growing up in, I would see these lights in the sky, and they would always be above my house. And I would have people, I would, have friends coming over, and I'd be like, look, there it is. Sometimes it would be over here, sometimes it would be over here, but it's always the same yellow, reddish light. And so was it one light? It was just one light. And, my parents would go, well, that's just a satellite. You're watching too much X-Files and everything like that. But I would see they would move a little bit, and then they'd kind of stay for a while, and then they move over here.
How bright was it?
It was pretty bright.
Okay.
You could notice it. If you paid attention and you say, well, that's a star, that's a satellite, that's something else. So that started to become a recurring theme, and I would have other people with me. We'd be driving, and I'd say, look, there it is, and it would be the same light. At one point, I remember I had a friend with me. We're driving down a very busy road, very populated, but it was later at night, probably midnight or so. So the businesses aren't open, but there's still cars going up and down this road.
Right.
And I go, look, there it is. And this light is closer than it had ever been before. It was still just a mass, just a ball of light, but it was bigger than before. And my buddy goes, I see it. I definitely see it. And this thing's going straight down the street, almost tagging along behind the car a little bit. I don't know if, they actually were watching me or whatever it was, but it was enough that I'm like, okay, again, I'm having other people experience these things. So I don't think I'm that crazy. I think I'm a little bit crazy, but I can't be that crazy because I got other people saying they're seeing this too.
Yeah.
So that definitely led into whole, well, then they say, well, if you say you've seen UFOs and strange things happen, lights in the sky, you could possibly be an abductee. You could possibly have these things happen to you, and you don't remember it. You have to do that regression therapy sort of thing.
Should never do.
Which I'm very afraid to do. I'm tempted to do it.
So here's the thing: regression doesn't work. Hypnotic regression does not recover lost memories. It's been absolutely proven that this is the case. What happens is your brain fills in what it thinks should be there. Jenny Randles, who's in my opinion, one of the top UFO researchers of our time, she didn't necessarily know what to make of the hypnosis thing. So she had an event in her life, if I'm remembering this right. She had an event in her life that she didn't remember everything from, but there were records. So she was hypnotically regressed to remember it. And the parts she did remember came out right under hypnosis. The parts she didn't remember were completely wrong because they were then able to go check it.
Yes.
And they said, oh, yeah, everything here is wrong. And so it actually creates false memories.
Okay. So you don't believe a lot of the people that say, oh, well, I did the regression therapy and I saw I was abducted, I was on the table.
I'm wondering if some of that is actually an altered state that they're experiencing currently. I had someone on, was it Brent Rains, I think, was talking about it. When they hypnotized this guy, a UFO showed up outside.
Wow.
He suddenly went, we got to go outside. It's still in a trance, and they walked outside, and there was a UFO there.
Okay. I think I read something about that. That's okay.
That's pretty cool.
So I think it's entirely possible that because hypnosis is an altered state, those experiences might be happening right then.
Okay.
In another state of consciousness.
Another state of being. Okay.
Or they're just being, created. I think there's probably a couple of things going on depending on the situation.
Oh, yeah.
So, but some people consciously remember this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing. And when you get the conscious memories, it's more diverse than when you get the hypnotic memories.
Yeah. Because then you get, I noticed they always get very emotional. They start to cry and they start to shake and everything like that. So I would imagine, whatever state that is, you could be, tampering any actual memories you would have because of how much emotion you're experiencing at the time.
And the thing is, hypnotically recovered memories, which, as I just said, aren't really memories, they're stronger than normal memories.
Okay.
So they actually feel more real than the stuff you consciously remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is there's like what's his name? South America, Villa Boas, where he was abducted, and there was no regression involved. He was abducted off his tractor in the field.
Yes. There's a movie about him,
Is
right?
there? No, that's Travis.
There's a documentary that came out. It's like the greatest story in the world or something like that.
Maybe.
It's about, he was a farmer and he had a bunch of dogs and he just was very, when they keep their stories straight, and he had this story straight for years and years, you can tell that this is exactly how it happened. It's kind of like with you probably talked about with the whole Bob Lazar thing. I believe him just because the story has stayed consistent.
So Bob Lazar to me seems like he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And this leaves me with two conclusions. Either one, he was fed misinformation because his truth doesn't match up with what we know.
Yeah.
Or B, he is an incredibly good liar.
Yeah.
Because he seems as genuine as you could be.
He does.
And I listen to him and I'm like, I can't not believe he believes what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I also know how the government has messed with people in the past.
That is true.
Right.
So you have to take into account that it sounds like disinformation.
Yeah. Possibly he was doing something that was beyond what we could, think of with aliens, or if something beyond that. And they just were like, okay, well, we'll just let him think he was working on a UFO. And, this came from space. Don't worry about that big machine over there.
And plus, when you think about it, too, if something could have come from another galaxy or something like that, we're not going to be able to figure out how to reverse engineer it ourselves. That's going to be way too complicated.
Yeah,
especially if they're way ahead of us.
Oh, yeah.
It would be like sending an iPhone back to the Middle Ages.
Yes.
Yep.
They're not going to be able to figure out how it works and make one.
Why are there people dancing on the little box?
Yeah, and then the battery dies, and they're like, all right.
Yeah, and they throw it away.
They couldn't even smash it open with a hammer.
No,
now you're really not going to know how it worked.
Yeah. But I like that. I like when these people have these consistent stories.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like Travis Walton's another one.
Yes. I love the Fire in the Sky story. I believe it.
That was
one of the scariest films of childhood ever. That was definitely, every parent out there listening, have your children watch Fire in the Sky. It'll be totally fine. They're
it may not be so scary to kids now.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Because watching it now, I mean, the effects and stuff aren't what they were back then.
This is dumb.
Although I will say I have rewatched the abduction scene recently where he's in the spaceship with him, and that is still a little bit scary even to this day.
It's an anxiety-filled scene.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, his actual account, he saw human beings.
Yes.
Yep.
There were people associated
humanoid.
with this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's something else you see with the UFO phenomena. You have like the guy who got the pancakes, if you're familiar with that story.
No.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It was like in the 1960s. This UFO came down in his backyard and asked him for water. And so he went, okay. And he went in and got water for them, and he saw them cooking something, and he said, can I have some of those? And they handed him 2 pancake-like objects, and then they took off. And he had them analyzed, and they were nothing special. He ate one and said it tasted terrible. Then he turned the other one over, and they analyzed it and said, this is like just wheat and corn flour or something.
That's all it is. It's just a little pastry.
Yeah, and with no taste to it.
I never heard that one. It's interesting.
So, I mean, you get all these really weird stories of people, and that, none of these are hypnotic,
No.
The hypnotically regressed ones are almost the more typical ones.
Yeah.
Because I think it's our brain going, must be what happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, when you get, I like when there are, people that I guess you would consider more credible than others. Like you got the Hopkinsville Goblin story about that, where the farmhouse was attacked by hundreds of little goblins that appeared. The whole family said they saw them. Then later, the police showed up and were like, something scratched up this house. Something was really messing around out here. And the family stuck to the story till they all died. This is what happened. That's one of my favorites because that's
one of my favorites.
Yeah, because it's just so scary. First off, imagine that happening.
They would shoot them and they'd like backflip and disappear and then just come back.
And they come back, and some of them had like silver jumpsuits on. So there's obviously some sort of intelligence involved with these things. So that's one of my favorites. But yeah, the UFO thing started to really become a recurring theme going on through up until senior year of high school, that I was just continually seeing this, and you know, you'd say my name in high school, and they just, well, that Derek's the Bigfoot guy, the alien guy. He's the one always reading the alien books. You know, he's the Bigfoot guy. You know, so that I got that reputation, and I would tell people the stories, and 90% would just go, "Well, you're nuts. You're crazy. This stuff is not happening to you." But I stuck by it. I go, "I'm seeing these things, and I got other people seeing these things too." So that then, you know, leads me to.
So was that
today.
all it was, though, seeing lights?
So it was just lights. It was just lights that I saw. But they would, you know, be more anomalous than anything else. You could definitely discern that this was something.
Well, as I was telling you beforehand, one of the things that we found in common with all this phenomena is lights.
Yeah.
Lights are common in Bigfoot encounters. Lights are common in ghost encounters. There's something to whatever's behind all of this, because I think it's all connected.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the thing. So when you're talking about a light hovering over your house and the house has haunted activity, I don't think those are two separate things.
Yeah.
I think somehow those are connected, and it might be connected through you.
Possibly. Possibly.
And records of lights goes back to even days at Columbus coming over on the Mayflower.
Oh, they go way back past that.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, UFOs have been seen throughout written history. So is Bigfoot. So is hauntings. That's why I say there's something to this.
Yeah.
It may not be what it seems like it is, but there's definitely something there. These people are seeing something real, or our entire history is filled with liars.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Now, you said you're really into Bigfoot, but you've never seen a Bigfoot.
So the only sort of thing that I would ever say... So yeah, Bigfoot was my biggest passion. I got the tattoo.
Yep.
I'm just obsessed with Bigfoot. Always have been. Plan on getting another one here too. It's just gonna be ridiculous at that point. But I throughout the years had collected so much material, books on books, and my favorite were the audio recordings of supposed Bigfoot screams and everything like that. So one year, my parents took me and a buddy of mine on a trip to the Adirondacks, where there have been some sightings throughout the years. Not many, too many, but some that are pretty, you know, okay, there may be something. So we're up there in the Adirondacks, and, you know, we're just glamping. We're staying at this beautiful cabin, and, you know, there's no actual threat happening anywhere around us. But I remember we're on the back porch, and me and my buddy are hanging, and I go, well, I'm going to just call blast. I'm going to just pull out my speakers, and I'm going to blast all of these Bigfoot calls. So for like 45 minutes, you just heard the whoops and the tree knocks and the screams. And there's my parents. What are you doing out there? I'm like, don't worry about it. We're hunting Bigfoots. Like, okay, that's fine. And so I remember we finished up doing that, and sun was kind of starting to come down a little bit. And we're like, all right, let's pack it on in. So we start to pick up the coolers and everything off the porch. And I immediately hear this noise to the left of me. I can picture it now. And you immediately, you know, as soon as you hear something, your brain automatically populates an image of what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I heard this noise, it was a screech. I didn't hear a deer. I've heard deer, animals like birds and turkeys and everything like that. This was immediately sounded like a woman screaming. But it was almost very, you know, carnal. Very just like a groaning sort of scream. I'm like, this is either a huge woman out in these woods right here screaming at the swamp, because it was the cabin was located right on the banks of this swamp that just stretched on and on. You could ride your canoe on through. It was beautiful. So we heard the scream, and I looked at my buddy, and he looked at me, and we're just like, no, it can't be, no. So we stayed inside for the rest of the night. We didn't even dare look out the back window.
That's what you wanted. You wanted
it. You want it until you got it. And then when you have it, you don't want it anymore. So that was the only thing that I maybe could say, well, that might have been something. Could have been a coyote, because coyotes do make very strange noises.
Yes, they do.
But I thought that was enough that, okay, there's something was responding to whatever I was playing out into the vast swamp here.
Right. And these things sometimes are mimics too.
Yes.
And that includes ghosts and things like
100%.
that. You get mimicry.
Yeah.
So have you had poltergeist activity around you?
Poltergeist. I haven't seen things move, but like I was talking before, we're doing that one seance. You would leave something one spot, and it would appear in another spot later on. Things would go missing occasionally. But nothing was ever that seemed too, because I like to think that poltergeists are more of a malicious side to it, and I never felt any sort of maliciousness.
Well, I think poltergeists come from us.
Okay.
That's why I'm wondering, because if you have poltergeist activity, you're having haunting activity, you know, the stuff seems to be following you. It might be because you have that energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen things interacted with. my mother has a very old cuckoo clock that was passed down for generations. And it was my great-grandmother's. At least it was in her family line. She had passed away years back, and I remember sitting in that living room, the haunted living room, and we mentioned my grandmother's name, and that cuckoo clock hadn't been on since like the 50s. Very old, almost crumbling at this point. The second we mentioned her name, the thing cuckooed.
Nice.
And we stare at each other, and we're just like, okay, Grandma must be here. Something must be going on here. So when we started to see things actually, move and interact, that's when I definitely was like, can you believe me now? There's something going on. Still, they're like, no, it's just
coincidence.
It's a coincidence. It's just really old, and it's fine. So that was enough for me.
What about things like sleep paralysis? Ever have that?
Definitely have had sleep paralysis before. Definitely have had instances where, you wake up and you can't move, and I've had a few times where I would wake up and I can't move, and I could feel presence. I felt at one point, I remember feeling multiple presences around me. Felt like it was weird. I had like an exact number. I'm like, there's 2 at the foot of the bed, and there's 2 on the side of the bed where I'm laying. And to this day, I still can't know if that's more associated with the ghosts or more associated with the UFO things that I witnessed at one point, because you never really know. But then at the same time, they say with sleep paralysis, you do hallucinate, and your brain's still actively dreaming in a way.
I think sometimes it's your brain dreaming while you're conscious.
Yeah.
But I also think it's an altered state.
Yeah.
So it's possible that you're interacting with actual things at times.
Possibly.
And again, I don't think you should separate the UFO from the ghost. I think there's an interconnection there somewhere.
That is true. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I've always said, like, if you see a light in a house, you go, oh, it's a ghost. But if you see a light in the sky, oh, it's an alien.
It's an alien, yeah.
But it's still a light. We're still dealing with a light.
That is true. I never thought of it that way, that it could be some sort of connection. But now that I think about it, there may be something to do with it.
And you find that people who have experiences throughout their life have a variety of experiences.
Yes.
So, like, to me, it doesn't make sense if they were just aliens. Yeah. That would the people who experience the aliens would also be the ones that see the ghosts or the Bigfoot or have other stuff going on. But when you say, well, maybe it's not aliens, maybe it's something connected to the same energy that's projecting all this other stuff.
Oh yeah.
Different masks, different focuses.
Yeah. You got the whole connection too, where people go into, because when it comes to the Bigfoot culture and everything, you got the whole, is it a flesh and blood thing like we were talking about? And then you get into the more fringe aspect of it, where people say, well, there's the UFO connection, there's the spirit connection.
Yep.
So you get, when you hit that fork in the road, that's where people always are kind of like...
Now, you're more of a flesh and blood guy.
I am a more flesh and blood. Basically, the theory I've come up with at this point, after years of reading and researching and studying, I believe it is an offshoot of Neanderthal, that somehow... throughout years, as we as humans evolved to learn how to use tools and manufacture and become what we are today, they spent this entire time keeping in touch with their primalness, but in order to stay alive, we need to avoid Homo sapiens. So they have perfected throughout these years ways to hide their dead, not be seen, understand electronic cameras. A lot of people say that you can never catch Bigfoot on like a trail cam because they can see the infrared coming off these things, and they know, okay, I don't want to go near that, because they're cognizant and intelligent enough to understand that if I'm seen, I will die. So, I like to think that they've just evolved to this certain point. You get into, I read, I think it was in, it's a great book by Autumn Williams called Enoch. She wrote it in lieu of a man who wrote to her claiming that he was interacting and had habituation with a Sasquatch that he named Enoch. And Enoch showed him the lifestyle in a way that they had lived up to this point. And one part was he was taken to a larger clan of Sasquatch. He met 7 or 8 of them. And one of them was holding the corpse of a very young Sasquatch. And he said... the burial process was that they would take up a fresh sapling, rip the sapling out of the tree, bury the body underneath that sapling, and rebury that. And so then you've got a tree growing, and you never would think that that's where it's buried. So they have that cognizance, because I actually was just reading a thing. They found Neanderthal sculptures. Not really sculptures, but leftover remnants of, they had built something. They had built some sort of small clay pot or some sort of bowl or something like that. So they were cognizant enough to understand that. And they found
Neanderthals were probably very intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably smarter than us.
They've been found with burial rites. They've been found Sasquatch bones with arrowheads and flowers and things like that. So they understood that they had a burial process. Mm-hmm. So I like to think that Sasquatch are an evolutionary offshoot that are just so good at hiding from us. We've never found them until now.
See, when you tell me that story, it makes me think of the contactee stories.
Yeah.
You know, like where the space people came down and then took them and showed them their ways and then brought them back. And it's kind of like, so is it the same mask on a different thing?
Could be. You know,
I don't discount that there's a flesh and blood creature, especially when you're dealing with like the Himalayas or the Pacific Northwest, where you have all this wilderness that these things could hide. I mean, even if they're not doing specifically hiding themselves, it might be very hard to come across a body before scavengers get to it and the bones are scattered 100%. And everything else. But it's like when you have them in New Jersey and then you have, UFO sightings connected with them and this, and you get like a monster flap, know, where this creature is seen in a populated area for a while, and then you look around and you see all this other stuff is going on, and then it all just stops.
Yes.
That's when I say, okay, I don't know that was a flesh and blood thing.
Yes. Well, that can also, like with the Mothman, who, along with the sightings of Mothman, UFOs were seen, strange things happened.
Poltergeist activity, all kinds of stuff.
And then he just disappeared.
Yes.
And was never seen. It pops up every once in a while.
It's not quite the same.
No, it's not.
That bridge collapse ended the Mothman thing. All the weird stuff stopped.
100%.
And it never really picked up to the same degree. But that, again, you're in an area there where stuff has been reported throughout history.
West Virginia is a very paranormal-centered state, and it's weird because they don't ever talk about it, but there's a lot of stories out of West Virginia.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the Mothman was like a concentration of it.
Yeah.
You got the Mothman in Chicago now, but it's not quite the same type of thing. And I don't really know what to make of it. I've had Lon Strickler on to talk about it, and I read his book, but I feel like, yes, people are reporting what they're seeing, but I'm not sure it's quite what was happening in West Virginia,
Yeah. I would think it would be individual beings, whatever it is, visiting these specific places on their own, and whatever people see elsewhere is possibly just something a little bit different. But then you get into... when you're seeing the winged creatures, then you also got the Thunderbird and things like that, which goes into Native American lore and things like that.
Pterodactyls.
I love the pterodactyl stories.
Yeah, so do I.
I love Jurassic Park, so I'm just hoping one day someone catches one of these things. My favorite is out of Australia. There's reports throughout the years, not so many nowadays, which I think is interesting, that as time goes on, you're hearing less and less of these stories.
Sometimes. It depends.
Well, especially, I think these are... isolated areas that I think we're slowly just spreading out, because the population just keeps growing. More and more people. In Australia, they're saying they're seeing velociraptors running through the desert.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. I want that to be real.
Until you meet up with it in the woods.
Until I see it real. Or the Mokele Mbembe? I think if I'm saying it right.
That's from Africa.
In Africa. That's a good one, because when you've got people that have lived in the jungles for 200, 300, 400 years, and they're saying, nope, it's not a hippo, it's not a rhino, it's not anything that we've seen. This is a totally different animal, and it can kill all of those other animals. We've seen it do it.
Right.
My favorite is like this thing picks up rhinos and throws them through the forest.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really cool thing. And if you got this man who doesn't know TV, he doesn't know modern culture.
Yeah.
And he says, and I think at one point, some researcher went out there with a book of animals, and when he hit the picture of an Apatosaurus, they go, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
And I go, he didn't see Jurassic Park the other day. He doesn't have a TV. This man doesn't understand what that is. So I think that's a definite sort of factor that you got to look at it and be like, that could be something there.
Because, we do still have alligators around, which are,
huge in some cases,
And they grow huge, 100%.
So does that cover all of your experiences?
Pretty much. I would say that's pretty much it. I'm hoping for more Bigfoot stuff someday, but
so you can run away from it.
So I could basically be terrified and say, why did I ever want this to happen?
What is the most recent thing that happened to you?
Oh, let's see. I just started living with my girlfriend, and every once in a while she's got this front door, and maybe you could attribute it to maybe the wood creaking or something like that. But every blue moon, we'll be sitting there on the couch. You'll just hear this bang, as loud as the dickens. And the cats flip out. Everybody flips out in the house. It becomes 5 minutes of like the Haunted Mansion. And I think, well, maybe it's just the wood cracking or something, or the wood popping in the cold or something like that. But it's so loud, you hear everything jangle. You hear the doorknob shake almost off the door. So she always goes, I swear to God, if you brought something into this house, we are not going to work out. I'm like, it's fine. It comes with the product.
That's part of the fun.
That's part of the fun. You date me, you get the ghosts. It's okay.
Have you had any missing time experiences?
Oh, I can't say I have.
Okay.
Can't say I have.
Okay. I was going to ask you something else. Let's go back to the spirit box.
Yes.
Now, now we're talking about the one that cycles through the radio stations.
Yes, it goes to the radio stations, and the people there that were at that quarry were saying that it was speaking, not intelligently, but it was forming words together. Mm-hmm. So when that started to hit, that's when they started to really freak out. Apparently there is somewhere, I had it at one point saved, actual document footage of this all happening.
Really?
And I remember watching it at one point, but I think it's probably gone now. That was over 10 years ago. But I remember it was available, and I remember watching it. And you can see the exact moment when they say my name, everything lights up. So, who knows?
Interesting. Was it just a spirit box, or were they using like
I think it was a spirit box, and they just had some sort of flashing mechanism that would flash whenever something was interacting with it. I think it was one of those, like, there's a button on there, and if the spirit is able to actually maneuver it and make the light turn on and off.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
All right. Yeah, the spirit boxes I'm really on the fence about.
I am.
Like, I don't think any of it is impossible.
No.
But I feel like it's unlikely that a spirit could push words that are being said on the radio through the spirit box.
Yeah.
Like EVPs, I'm very intrigued by.
Yes.
Although I'm not completely convinced that the people who are doing the hunting aren't subconsciously creating the EVPs. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things I've noticed is that the more people ghost hunt, the more EVPs they get.
Yeah.
So either the ghosts are talking to them better, or maybe they're psychically putting stuff on the recordings without knowing they're doing it. So like a poltergeist, and they're creating this and then playing it back, and look at these great EVPs we've gotten.
You hear what you want to hear.
Right.
I hear a mumble and I hear a bump somewhere. I go, there, he said my name.
But I'm saying even if it's clear, I think it might be coming from the person. Because poltergeists, parapsychologists will tell you poltergeists come from a person. They're unconscious psychokinetic energy. Mm-hmm. And it's usually a teenager, a lot of times a girl, hitting puberty. They're in a stressful situation, like a broken home or something like that. Mm-hmm. And instead of acting out and, doing horrible things, they bottle it up. Yep. And it comes out as this entity. But it's really them. That's why it'll focus on them.
100%.
And they have patterns on how all this stuff filters out. And I wonder if that's what's happening with EVPs.
Possibly.
And I wonder if it's what's happening when people hunt Bigfoot. And more when they go out, they'll hear the vocalizations, the knocking, because these are all poltergeist stuff.
Yeah.
They're not, these people aren't seeing a Bigfoot, but they're hearing stuff that corresponds to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And especially being in nature, I think you have a lot more access to that energy. Mm-hmm. Just like when you go to a power spot. I mean, nature itself is a power spot.
Oh, yeah. There was there's a spot out in, I think, Baldwinsville. It's called Whiskey Hollow. Mm-hmm. It's a old land, and there's a large old cave out there. It is not deep cave, but it's just a obvious alcove, and it's been there for, hundreds of years. The land itself had a very, a lot of stories. They always say the witchcraft and the KKK meetings and the animal sacrifice.
A lot of satanic rituals out there.
A lot of satanic rituals, because people that I had talked to said, well, I went out there and I found a pile of bones, and I found what looked like a campfire, and it was weird bones in the campfire. And
that could be someone cooking.
Could be someone just making some chicken. I mean, leave the guy alone. But I remember at one point, you always, when I would go out there, and there was also a spring. That I always thought there's something to that. There's a deep water spring that comes out that people continually will be up there just bottling. You'll see people with cartons just bottling this deep earth water. It's very delicious. Perfect water. Awesome water. We need to bottle that and make money. But being up there, I remember taking someone up there at one point and walking around, and I remember we're walking deep into the woods, and I go, oh, geez, I think we're lost. The second I said that, I heard, and she heard what I claim is a little girl giggle, like something laughing at me. The person I was with at the time said, well, I believe those were fairies. I think that was a fairy laughing at us. I didn't know what it was, but it was definitely the sound of laughter. out in this deep, vast wilderness. And from that, I was like, okay, we got to go. It's time to leave. We're done here. Get the water and let's go.
You know, for someone who's really into this, you take off pretty quick.
I'm so into it until it happens. And then I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
And you have a lot of connections between the fairy faith and UFOs.
Yes.
I mean, you see it's like a different mask based on a different culture. So, I mean,
we used to see them. I think it was 60% of Iceland still believes in elves.
Yep.
They have elf houses, and they go, well, the elves stay there at night.
Well, they had to reroute the one highway because it was going to go through, something that was, an elf lair or whatever it was, and they were like, no, you can't take that out. You got to go around.
You have to go around. And when you got a whole population of a whole country still believing these, ancient tales, there's something definitely to it. I think maybe as we grow more technologically in tune with the technology, we're losing that sort of attunement to that connection of what we used to have as a society.
And because we have no like paradigm for it, when we experience it, it just comes across as scary because that's not supposed to be there.
Oh yeah,
right.
You're on WVBR FM Ithaca. This is Where Did the Road Go? We're talking with two members of Cactus Cathedral, and we have a few more minutes here. You brought some books, but what have been the most influential books that you've read in this stuff?
So definitely Enoch by Autumn Williams was definitely one that I remember reading pretty young and definitely being moved by it. Throughout the years after, there were different reports, people saying, oh, well, she just made it all up, and the guy that wrote in was making it all up. But the detail that this man claimed that he had with this habituation was enough for me that I was a believer and I was sold on it. I'm obsessed with reading about habituation between Bigfoot and man because I think when people are saying that they're continually having this connection with this being, I wouldn't throw it all away just because there's something to it. If this person, and they always say, well, if you're making it up, they're going to go, oh, well, this Bigfoot had red eyes and this Bigfoot had horns and mine was looking like this and mine looked like that. Well, they always look the same.
But that's the thing. If you're making it up, you're going to make it sound more believable for an unbelievable story. You're not going to make it outrageous.
It correlates in a way. Like the way in this book, he would talk about the language that he would hear the Sasquatch speaking is basically the same that Ron Moorhead recorded back in 1970s, the Seriah sounds, which are my favorite thing in the world. The Seriah sounds, basically, it sounded, as they put it, as Jim Belushi's old SNL Samurai. Making that sort of just that weird, just sort of Oriental sort of noise. But these two dudes in 1970 recorded, hours of just this chatter out there in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And also, this is 1970, and they, throughout time, have done continual audio, investigations into it, and they go, this isn't just him. This isn't just one guy recording somewhere.
Right.
This is whatever's talking on this other mic that they placed out, deep in the woods. It's at a lower frequency. It's lower than a human can make. It's a different sort of voice than we can, redo, especially back in 1970. That's also why I'm a big proponent of the Patterson-Gimlin footage.
Yeah, I think that's genuine. I
think it is because they stuck by their stories the whole time. Other people would say, well, I made the costume for him. I did this
But they don't have it.
But they don't have it. They never have it. They don't have the proof. So, I like that.
And my thing with that, too, is that someone pointed out it was around the same time Planet of the Apes came out.
Yes.
So here you have the $1 million or $1 billion budget, whatever Planet of the Apes, I have no idea, but it was a big budget movie for the time, and those don't look real.
No, they don't.
So here's this guy out in the wilderness, and he created a Bigfoot sighting and recorded it. That looks real?
Yeah.
Because it's never been, it looks fake.
They've never been able to redo it.
Yeah, they've never been able to quite redo it, but it's never been a matter of people saying, no, that just looks bad. It's like, no, that looks real. But it must be fake because no one else has gotten this, before.
100%. The muscle moves on that. When you watch it and slow down, you see a calf muscle move in this.
And it's also female.
Yes.
And so you go back to that time period and you're going to fake a Bigfoot sighting. Are you going to fake a female Bigfoot?
You're going to give the Bigfoot breasts. Like, okay, you're going the extra step here.
But the thing is, you wouldn't do a female Bigfoot. You would think of it as a male creature.
You would just go as this gorilla monkey man and just have it run through the woods. But when you're going that extra detailed step, it's too much. The last thing I'll say is those that don't fully believe in the Sasquatch idea, I bring you to the idea of mountain lions on the East Coast. The Department of Environmental Conservation for years has continually stated that there are no mountain lions in a breeding population along the East Coast. I know two people that I can name off the top of my head that say, I saw a mountain lion here in upstate New York.
Yep.
They continually see them. They're seeing black panthers. They're seeing cougars. And so...
I saw a cougar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if people are saying that they see that and they already are being disclaimed. I had a professor who railed into me one day, Derek, there are no mountain lions. You will never pass this class if you keep telling me that there's mountain lions here in New York State. I work for the DEC and I know what's out there. If people can't even acknowledge that a breeding population of mountain lions exist, where else do we go when it comes to, a large ape surviving in North America?
So you were talking about the infrared.
Yes.
And how Bigfoot may not, may know to avoid it. Keith Linder, who did they did a bit with him on Ghost Adventures, Seattle Demon House.
Oh, yeah.
So Ghost Adventures dismissed it, but I've had Keith on, and I've seen the research that the Parapsychological Committee in the UK, Steve... I can't remember his name off the top of my head, Steve something. But anyway, they went out there for a week and stayed with Keith and got all kinds of stuff, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
They're setting up cameras. They're pulling the cameras out, and they're getting people talking. On the cameras they have already set up, there's people talking. They're not even investigating yet.
Oh, yeah.
They just started the cameras, and you hear them discussing, what are those? I think they're cameras.
Wow.
And then at one point, they said something was mentioned about the infrared, and one of them goes, we don't like that. Or they turned on the infrared, we don't like that. And I'm thinking, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Like, his case is very unusual. And I understand why people think he's faking it, because it's almost too good to be true.
That's a next level of intelligence right there.
Right.
Yeah, and there's no... I don't know. Like, for instance, they had one of the things that happened is he opens his doors, and they get up in the morning, they hear something, they open the door, and there's a Bible. It's not burning, but it's singed. And so this is where they started thinking, was this thing demonic?
Yeah.
So Steve Mira, that's his name.
Okay.
He took the same type of Bible, and he would put a match near it, and the page would just disappear. Like, there was no way to singe these pages. And he's like, I don't understand how this would have been faked.
Yeah.
Because he still had the Bible with the singed page. He's like, the minute a flame comes anywhere near this, those pages disappear.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the interesting things about apports, when things appear in poltergeist cases and such, they're almost always very warm.
Okay.
And incidentally, also the stones that Bigfoot throws.
Yes.
They're also very warm.
Yes.
And I mean, you could explain it by, well, he was holding it in his hand.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those.
But still, you don't know.
Here's another connection to poltergeist activity. But what struck me is, if these things are so warm and these pages are so flammable, maybe when this thing zipped into our reality from wherever it came from, it was hot enough to singe the pages.
Yeah.
And that would explain why they're singed. And it wasn't meant as, here's a burning Bible.
Yes.
It was like, oh, here's a Bible.
Here's a Bible.
And the Bible's singed, and we go, oh, demonic.
Yes. I never heard of that one. That's cool.
Yeah, his case is very unique. And, that makes me skeptical, but at the same time, having talked to him, having talked to Steve Mira, and hearing and seeing some of the footage they've captured, it's like, okay, this is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I have a hard time just dismissing this.
Oh, yeah.
And Steve has a good reputation as a parapsychologist. He's not someone who's likely to be faking stuff. It's a really interesting case. But like I said, Ghost Adventures went in for a couple hours, nothing happened, they dismissed it.
Yeah.
So
my favorite with Ghost Adventures was the very first thing they did before they got on the Travel Channel was they had their own little movie that they put together, which was like their selling thing that they sold to Travel Channel.
Right.
And in that movie, there's some of the spookiest things that happen.
Well, that's one of the brick moves, right?
The brick moves.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they have the EVP of them. They go, oh, did you do this? And you hear the EVP is like, we did this. And it's clear as day.
Yeah,
you hear this woman saying this. So that one I always show to people, or they got the one of, you can see the shadow literally follow behind someone as they're like leaving the room. You see this thing come up and it actually just
vaguely
walks.
Remember that.
And like you can see the light pass through this thing. So actually the light is actually covered. So it's a tangible thing that's walking through there. They slow it down and they go, look, the light disappears as it walks past the light. So there's something there. But that's the one I really recommend people watch, the very first Ghost Adventures movie.
The thing with any of those groups, including like Ghost Hunters and stuff now, I think Ghost Hunters were completely legit when they started.
Yes.
And then when all these other shows started showing up, I think they didn't have as much qualms about occasionally faking stuff to entertain.
Right.
So sometimes it's legitimate footage, and if it's not, well, maybe we'll just move that. Like there's one Ghost Adventures where they have a camera pointed toward the door, and they have a camera they're holding, and as they walk in, like this coat hanger, not coat hanger, like a coat rack, flies in and hits one of them. Now that should be on the other camera.
Yeah.
But they never show that angle. And I'm thinking, because if you show that angle, you're going to see someone throwing it.
Yeah.
I
think they go in, they go, well, maybe we'll get something this time. And then by the time they leave, they go, we got nothing for this shoot.
We got to get something.
They go, we spent $10,000 just to shoot. Go throw a brick. Go smash something, and we're going to see the ghost did it.
And I think when Ghost Hunters started, there were a lot of episodes where nothing happened.
Yeah.
But they had no competition. People were watching it,
Yeah. And they would actually debunk. They go, I think you just got creaky pipes. I think you got an old house.
Yeah. My favorite Ghost Hunters was, and it took me a while to find this because I wanted to rewatch it. It wasn't as clear as I remember it, but they were in a baby toy, like a baby store.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't think there was anything to it. And they were dismissing all this stuff. They're like, this is a new building. The area has no history. Mm-hmm. They thought maybe it was a woman who died there, or didn't die there, but worked there and passed away. And maybe she was doing it. And so they're walking around. They're calling out her name. And you get these EVPs. I thought they were clearer. When I re-listened to them, I'm like, they're not as clear as I remember. But they basically say what sounds like they're going, Gene, are you here? And you hear the voice go, there's no Gene here.
Yeah. Like you're calling the wrong person.
And then like a few moments later you hear one go, leave us alone.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what if you have like another dimension? So a parallel dimension, and this is just a thin spot. And there are just people sitting in their house, and they hear these voices going, Gene, Gene, and they're like, there's no Gene here, leave us alone.
Because in their universe, they're just in their house.
Right, and they're like, damn ghosts. You know?
There's no ghosts here, leave us alone.
There's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know, we know so little about how we perceive reality, what reality is. It's, we make assumptions based on what we do know, and that's all we really have.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone comes across with a really strange story, and you go, I don't know.
You don't have an answer.
We actually, I'm just remembering it now, we had a weird experience in our jam space a few years ago. We had video footage of this at one time. I was trying to find it before we came today.
Yeah.
It was him and I were in the room together, and I think you were doing like an Instagram video, so he was just kind of like doing a panoramic view of the room. I remember him saying, oh my God, what was that? And we went back and looked at the footage. As he was going by our PA speaker, you see a shadowy figure of a hand just pop up, do this, and go back
down. From like the side of the camera, you just see this hand kind of go like this. And we had the lights off too in the room, and we just had like a couple weird little lights happening in the background.
And that's the only shadow with it.
You could see it clear as day.
It wasn't. Neither of us were at the other end of the room the whole time.
We practice in a very old building too. That's been there for a long time. It was an old factory.
You need to get better about saving this stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I thought we had it on Instagram. I was looking at both of our profiles and everything, and I couldn't find it anywhere.
No, that's probably lost in time.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I've seen stuff like that before where you see a hand move out, and it's just like, what is that? You know?
Yeah.
It was I remember it was clear. You could see 5 fingers just kind of go like this.
Huh.
Like it kind of was like noticing it was going to be on camera and kind of just went off to the side angle to not be caught.
Now, as far as books go, do you do a lot of reading on this stuff?
Not really as much. I do a lot more, I watch a lot more videos on it.
Okay.
I'm big on the Joe Rogan experience and all the guests that he brings on to talk about.
I like how Joe approaches the stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am too. Like I have a big interest in it, and I really hope that's all real, but I'm still skeptical of it.
Yeah, I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
If you disbelieve everything that's handed to you, you're going to... I mean, that was when, whatchamacallit was on Joe Rogan from Blink-182.
Tom DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge, and he's saying, he's seemingly maybe in an altered state at that time.
Yeah.
And he's saying, like, everything on YouTube is real. And Joe's like,
yeah.
Well, can you give more insight? Oh, I can't talk about that.
Yeah, everything on YouTube is real. Okay.
Well, they said Tom DeLonge was going to be the guy that they were going to be the disclosure spokesman for. That when it finally hits, they're going to go, here's Tom DeLonge to tell you from Blink-182 about how we're not alone out there. You love their songs. So I thought that was going to happen for a while. I'm waiting for the day Tom DeLonge appears on CNN.
Well, the thing is, the people who are behind the Two to Stars Academy and all that are the same people who have been involved in disinformation campaigns in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's kind of like, what's happened in the 2 years since that came out? Nothing.
Yeah.
We got a couple of videos which were already available on the internet, but now we have some providence as to where they came from.
Yeah.
But that's we haven't learned anything.
No.
Other than, these people realized it was weird when they videotaped it. It's like, great. How do we know it wasn't a test craft? How do we know, there's no real information there.
Yeah.
And they push this whole disclosure thing, and honestly, nothing has changed.
No.
They've made money.
Yeah. And there's always, I always love too when they have like the presidents, ex-presidents and current presidents, they would be on all the late night shows, and there's like compilations where they're always getting asked. They go, oh, well, can you tell us about the UFOs? Bill Clinton kind of says something a little bit, well, if they were there, I'd tell you, you know, and then they ask Barack, and he says the same thing. And then I think I just was watching one where they asked Trump, because it was right like a week after all those Navy pilots said, they had all those videos released, and they go, President Trump, do you know about this? Do you know what's, and he just goes, well, I don't believe, but you never know. It's a crazy world out there. And it's like, when they say that, it's like, come on, we know what you're saying.
Or they just really don't know. It's never been brought up. I don't think they told
Trump anything.
I don't think they've told any of them anything.
Oh, no.
I think the president knows very little of what's going on deep state.
Yeah. I like to think there's a president book of secrets, but
I don't think so.
I don't think it could, because the president's too public of a figure to spread information like that too.
Yeah. One slip and
one meltdown. That's it.
So what kind of subjects have ended up in your Cactus Cathedral songs?
So it's funny, we were talking about earlier the idea of creating an energy being out of emotion and anger and sadness and everything like that. Our newest song that just premiered a couple days ago, Half Devil, is about that sort of concept. The lyrics are basically of a woman who's abused by her lover and creates this sort of demon in the walls of where she lives that of comes and guards her, aids her, terrifies her, everything like that. That was something I definitely wanted to add into our repertoire, because we started to lean into the ghost stuff with our last EP, Hauntings and Hardships, and so I wanted to continue that sort of idea.
And do you find people respond well to the lyrics?
People do. I hear a lot of stuff, not to toot my own horn, that they go, oh, those lyrics. They go, those are great lyrics. And honestly,
I think a lot of people are interested in this stuff.
Oh, yeah. I just come up with them, out of nowhere, but it always fleshes out and works really well.
The subject matter, people are interested in this type of stuff, and it's showing more and more. And when you have shows like Ancient Aliens, when you have Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, even if they're not really getting into the deep depths of this stuff, they're at least making it okay for people to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because now it's in the pop culture.
Yes. Now I'm not the crazy one who just thinks of that. Now it's on Channel 62 and everyone's crazy. That's what it is. I can just turn on my TV and look, they think like I think.
Right, exactly. And earlier before the show, I was telling you there's 3 things I've found that run through this stuff: lights, electrical phenomena, and emotional stuff.
Okay.
Emotions are a big key to this stuff.
Yes.
And so whatever might be behind it, like we're talking about Gettysburg.
Yeah.
How much emotion was put into that area.
Oh, yeah.
And that area might also be something that soaks up that type of energy.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a better, the stone tape theory of different types of materials record events. But it might, if we're reading information out of the environment, it doesn't have to be recording an event. It just has to record the information. Yeah. And we have the right platform to play it back on,
Yeah. Well, you look at Stonehenge and areas like that, where there's just for thousands of years this sort of understanding that there's a certain energy to that one spot.
Right.
That means something.
And we don't understand that.
And we don't get it. We're never going to get
that way. Well, we might eventually.
Someday, maybe.
We have too much of a materialistic paradigm for this stuff to fit in neatly.
Our third eyes haven't opened up yet. That's all it is.
But energy is so much a part of all this stuff, and it's not really acknowledged by the scientific establishment.
Yeah.
Even when you have, like right here in Cornell, they had the psi studies where they were showing that people were reacting to images before they were shown, before they were even picked, which suggests that our concepts of time are wrong.
Oh, wow.
Because even though it was only a few milliseconds prior to the computer picking the image, people, of course, react strongest to images of violence and sexuality. So when one of those images was about to be picked, before the computer randomly picked it, you would see a spike in the in their brain waves that matched what they were just shown.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, but their brain is reacting before it's been picked.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Yeah. And it's everyone. It's not just, this is a gifted psychic.
Yeah.
This is an everyday person, and they're responding like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, okay, why?
Yeah.
You know, like what's going on there?
Oh, 100%. I definitely do think we all have these abilities. You know,
Yes,
it's all a part of us. How much we're in tune with it varies between us.
Yes, and it's like being colorblind. Some people just see nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not their fault. It's just that their brains don't pick up those wavelengths or interpret those things, or they're just consciously blocking it out because they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear one of your songs to close things out here. Let's go. What's Oceanus about?
Oceanus is about murder. It's about murdering your lover in a boat.
What about Haunted by Nothing?
Haunted by Nothing is, oh man, that is kind of a love song, kinda, but it is I'd say kind of about demons a little bit.
Okay.
Thinking something is true, and then finding out something's been hiding in front of you in plain sight. Something changing its shape. There's a couple lines about shape-shifting and, thinking someone is one way and they become someone totally different than who you thought. That's kind of where that song comes from, lyric-wise.
Okay.
That's a long song. That's like 8.5, 9 minutes almost.
That'll bring us right to the end.
Perfect.
So I thank you guys for coming up and doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And people can find you where?
So we are on every streaming platform. We're on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music. Just tell your Alexa, play some Cactus Cathedral. It's the coolest thing in the world to do that.
I think we're on
iHeartRadio, Deezer, YouTube. You can just go right into YouTube. You can see our performance from here last year, 2018.
Yeah.
I think that's
Did I not do this year's yet?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's entirely possible. I'm a little behind.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's all right.
We don't want to rush you. But that's all on there. All of our EPs, able to download off Bandcamp for free.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
And we are on Facebook and
Instagram, everything.
Awesome. So right after this, we'll hear Cactus Cathedral, Haunted by Nothing, and wheredidtheroadgo.com, of course, for everything Where Did the Road Go related. I want to thank all of our Patreons, without whom this show may not even be possible. And I particularly want to give a shout out to those pledging $10 or more. Allison Cook, Eric Hervin, Lindsay Marie Trebet, Super Inframan, Tim, Rob Drummond, Alex Whitcomb, Edu Camahort, Elliot Keegan, Janet Bunderson, 36 Dingo, Maria, Jennifer Campbell, American Rambler, Kevin, John Rutledge Foster, Eric Citron, Andy McNamara, Sasha Org, Matthias Sunby, Dominic O'Malley, Christopher Vaughn, Riker and Stark, Sean Cosgrove, Jose A., Roger Gonzalez, Craig Cicernos, Ray Benedetto, Lindsey Jackson K., Alfred Tuttle, Kevin Schreck, Patricia Gaia-Quinta, William Lovelace, Mark Brady, Chris is a hot dog a sandwich, and Carla Mahoney. Thank you all so very much.